Welcome to the What's Appening podcast, where this season we're interviewing GPT creators. What's Appening is brought to you by 3 Events, the development team for startups. I am your host, Rafael Testai, my co-host and CEO of 3 Events, Paul Murphy, and we have a very special guest today. And his name is Imtiaz Hasan. Hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. And I'm really humbled to be here in the presence of 2 successful men, really incredible successful men. So I really appreciate your time and also inviting me here to talk about AI, Python, GPTs, all the fun stuff.
Exactly. Well, to give you a little bit of background to our audience, I want to tell them where I found you. So there's this community, this website called Skool with a K. And Alex Hormozy, he's like a famous social media person. He's always talking about it because he invested in it. He always wears this hat. And we can provide a link in the show notes for Alex Hormozy, who that is. And I was browsing there about GPT creators and GPT communities. And that's where I came across Imtiaz. And he has a community in Skool. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what that community and how it started?
Yeah, that's a great question, Raf. Well, actually, I just found that there was not enough resources. As you know, the AI development space is very new. And as I was building GPTs and figuring out all the technical lingo, what is custom GPTs? How do I get custom GPTs out of the chat GPT interface? How can I use OpenAI Assistant API? So I started to play around with all these technologies and I realized I need people who think like me. I need resources that I cannot find in the internet. So I started creating YouTube videos just for fun because I thought it'll be great to share this knowledge. And also for reference because it's really hard to keep up with all these AI technologies coming in and out. So I'm pretty sure somebody will find my content and find some value from it. And people started to come and then I started to get comments like, hey, I've been looking for exactly this kind of content. I just couldn't find it anywhere. That's why I knew that there was definitely a demand for skills like this, working with custom GPTs, building it, deploying it, or even selling it, right? This area is fairly new. And I'm finding even people who have coding experience, Python developers, they're coming to this space and they're finding that there is a whole new realm of knowledge, like especially in AI, web servers, etc. So I come from a data science background. So for me, I learned Python through practical application. As you know, Python opens up the door for different areas because it's a coding language and people have built functions and libraries to support specific domains. So you can build on top of what they've already created, piece the pieces of the puzzle together. And so I eventually found myself working in deployment services, web server services, and people started to reach out to get consultancies. So I figured, okay, let's just start a community and let's just get everybody in the same page. Let's start talking about AI. Let's start talking about custom GPTs, OpenAI assistants. And fortunately enough, I've had the chance to meet a lot of amazing GPT builders, as well as people who are innovating in this space. And I just love hearing about their stories, how they got started, just like you guys. And it just gives me a little bit of, more of motivation to keep going. And the school concept is very interesting because you have everything all in one place. You have courses, you have a calendar, so you can also host workshops. So if somebody wants to brush up on their Python skills or just building agent, if they want to get a crash course in building agents, they can do this workshops. They have access to me through the chat interface as well as the workshops and as well as the community. As you know, like courses by itself, it's not enough. People generally buy courses and they don't finish it. So I think the community aspect really gives people that push and the motivation to take it to the finish line.
And MTS, how big is the community now, and what would you say what was like the highlight? What do you think you've got from the community that sort of spurred you on to keep going and want to keep growing? So how big is it?
The community is not big at this moment. It's around 136 members. I started fairly recently, like a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I've had people interested for a while. I've been collecting email addresses, but it wasn't just enough because I needed that interaction with the members. I needed to also learn from them because, as you know, we're all kind of the great thing of the Skool community is like we're all in this together. You know, I help you, you help me. This collaborative frame, I really love that approach. So yeah, it just started very recently, but I see that there's a lot of potential as more people come in. We're definitely going to go places, especially with the agent technology getting more traction.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, no, we've been we're big on community. I feel like it's both strengthening from a personal perspective and give confidence in what you're doing and validating that you're in the right space. But also, you suddenly have a network of people that you can tap into. You know, you can get help. You can get people over to your product and test things out and get feedback on things you're doing. And obviously, I'm sure support them as well, right? And Raphael, are you a member of the Skool community? Have you been in there?
Yeah, I've been in there. I've been looking and checking out the different workshops, and I like it.
Cool. It's cool.
So you mentioned that people, you mentioned that they found exactly what they were looking for when they came across your content. What would that be?
Well, I noticed that it's centered around building GPTs, right? When I started my YouTube channel, I created my first custom GPT, and I was very excited. It was one of my inspirations is Tim Ferriss. I've read all his books, 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Chef, and all that. It's mostly about how you can optimize your time, the 80-20 principle with everything. So I thought it would be great to really get his mind, put it into a GPT, and then have him coach me for anything I need, like business, marketing, content creation, whatever the case is. Now, another cool thing is then I started experimenting with multiple people, like putting different brains together in one GPT, and like Alex Hormozi combination with Tim Ferriss. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is amazing technology. And I posted my first YouTube video. And it was just through that process of learning and iterating, like, then I realized I hit a wall, okay? Because I don't want the GPTs to be just constrained in the ChatGPT interface. How can I take this out and deploy it to websites, perhaps WhatsApp, Instagram, all these different channels? How can I make it more practical? Then I discovered other people talking about this space, and I realized there was definitely a knowledge gap for me to learn how to use web servers, how to use Flask, how to use all these different web development frameworks, which I had no clue about. So I started learning about it, and as I was building it, I started posting videos, and then it started getting traction. I think people also started in the same page as me, and they realized there was definitely a gap. And then as I was talking more about the OpenAI assistants, the APIs, and I brought more my technical knowledge into this with my Python abilities, I realized people started, and I looked at the analytics because I'm a data scientist. I love to look at the engagement data on the hood. And I realized people looked at my coding content more. Like there was big spikes in engagement, my coding content. And I realized, okay, people love this kind of stuff. So I did more coding stuff, how to work with APIs, how to do integrations, how to do more deployment. And that's when I started getting a little bit more traction, and people started to respond well, you might say. So it's almost like connecting with that core need in the market. I think that's what it was, the assistant API deployment.
Now, you're interesting to me, Imtiaz, because a lot of people who have jumped into especially creating GPTs, and some of the folks we've had in the podcast already, they have been very much non-technical, and they've come and been able to play around with, ChatGPT, then move on to custom GPTs. But you come from an engineering background, right? You are a data scientist. You're coming with some some beef to begin with, right? You come in with some strength and some experience in the technical world. And how are you finding that differentiates what you're capable of doing to, say, some other GPT creators that maybe are not as technical?
Yeah, I think I can give them a different perspective on the world of GPTs. And I think, in fact, I think everyone has a unique perspective that they can share in this rapidly evolving space of AI. And what's really cool with custom GPTs is that you can take your specialized knowledge, you can take your specialized domain experience, wrap it into a custom GPT, and you can serve your community, serve that specific function you want to serve. And that's the cool thing, is people are realizing that they can augment their core assets through this GPT. And now you have entrepreneurs coming out of the woodworks. My next door neighbor started learning Python, started building GPTs, and now he has an AI SaaS company just in a matter of weeks, right? Because everybody has an idea, but I think the technology is becoming easier, so you're only left with your imagination and implementation.
Totally agree. So I don't know how much you know about 3 Advanced, but we work with predominantly non-technical co-founders, and what we've loved doing over the years is, again, like you say, it's like someone that's coming from a different experience, a different industry. They're bringing their domain knowledge to solve a problem, and then we're bringing the tech knowledge and the tech capabilities and experience. But what we're seeing is exactly what you're saying. Like, folks that have had this barrier of technology used to be the barrier of entry, and now it's not. Now you can begin to use AI and GPTs to, proof of concept, to try out, to prove you right or wrong, and like take that first step to building a product, building a business. And I think it's like it's knocked down this boundary, this wall that's existed for so long, and that's what excites us. We've been trying to do this for so long, and suddenly the tech is there to help folks get on their way, and it's so refreshing. It's so refreshing that you're seeing that too, and it's so exciting that that's the world that we're living in. A year and a half after OpenAI really exploded on the scene.
Yeah, I want to jump further into this point. I think everybody has an entrepreneurship and engineering spirit. Ralph, I know you're an engineer, so you come from that background, and you're probably more excited. You're probably just as excited as anyone else building these GPTs. And the thing is, what makes I think, like, as entrepreneurs, as you know, it's really important to test things. Like, my YouTube channel is a testing ground, honestly. I just test content, test ideas, and see how people respond to it. And the same thing with GPTs. I think it's pulling out the entrepreneurship side of people. They now have a market to test. They can quickly prototype apps, see what's getting traction, and then build on top of it. And like you said, non-technical people now can understand the market, now can understand like how they can just quickly build apps and gauge that market. And that's really where you build on top of, right? So I think this is going to be really exciting.
Very cool. So you mentioned about your technical background. Well, first of all, let's give your YouTube channel a shout out. How can people find you on YouTube?
So I just recently changed my name, YouTube channel name. It's Custom GPT AI Agent Academy.
Okay, perfect. We'll have your link in the show notes so people can go. I definitely want to check out more of your videos because I think I would be your perfect target audience. I come from, I suppose, a technical background in mechanical engineering. I also led software teams, but I'm not a developer. I don't know programming. And it hasn't been an obstacle for me. I created a GPT that's got a couple hundred users that use it very frequently on a weekly basis. I turned that into a nonprofit. So a lot of people may be able to relate with where I'm at. And I want to take that next step, and I want to learn a little bit of technical expertise. What do you think should be the next step for me, and why?
Yeah, I think now that you validated your product, I think it's really important for you to now look at how you can make this a product. And there's different avenues you can take this. You can definitely talk to people who are building softwares or companies, who build softwares already, and see how you can implement this. But I'm quickly realizing that there's a intermediary step in between, right? You want to take the ChatGPT out. You want to take your custom GPT out of the ChatGPT interface, and now you want to be able to have a product, like a prototype product, where you can start collecting users' data, or perhaps providing them more personalized, recommendations. You can build API integrations. You can build custom functions. So that's the beauty of the Assistant API, is that it allows you to do that. It gives you the full potential of your custom GPT. When you take it out of the interface and now you have it deployed in your website or in your own, let's say, environment. Okay, so you need some Python fundamentals just to understand what's happening behind the hood, so that the agents are not a black box. So you understand the possibilities, and now you can expand on this. Perhaps you have a idea, some basic functions, some basic Python coding. The great thing with ChatGPT now, it can take all your ideas, all your fundamental coding knowledge, and then wrap it into a complete end-to-end product. Very soon, AI will be writing your product, will be making your software for you, and you're going to be the director, a manager, something like that. So, but it's always going to be your idea and your app that's going, or your prompt. Really, that's going to be the secret sauce.
I have to say something that I follow up real quick. I 100% agree with that conceptually. You said the Assistant API would be the next step for someone to learn?
Exactly. So moving from Custom GPT to Assistant API, that gives you the full potential of Custom GPTs.
What is an Assistant API?
So OpenAI provides builders two avenues for them to build custom GPTs. One is the ChatGPT interface, where you can build the GPTs without any coding experience. You can put in your knowledge base, add in some custom functions, or through their API schema, give some custom instructions. So this is a great place to start. Okay, but there is a lot of limitations there, because it's really hard to do integrations with external applications and softwares, etc. And you're going to hit brick wall very soon. But it's really good to have the first step, get that first step done. And then you want to use the OpenAI Assistant API. So OpenAI provides this as a service. It's like an API that directly connects with your assistant. So you can build an assistant on the interface and then use the API to connect the assistant, and then connect other LLM models, connect other softwares, etc. That gives you more leverage. So I definitely want people to have more leverage rather be stuck in one interface.
Yeah, I love it. Like ChatGPT is definitely where I think I would recommend anyone to start toying around. Go to ChatGPT, OpenAI.com, and just start toying, and then start creating custom GPT. And then, as you say, what happens next? Like, obviously, if you play around with a GPT, you'll notice that the performance and the accuracy, the quality, and the consistency is not there. You really need to do some work around starting with improving prompts, testing, iterating. But also then, if you want to bring this into a production environment, it takes more, right? It's, you got to build the guardrails, so safety and security to consider as well. And there's tooling, like we use OpenAI APIs, as well as Claude, Gemini. We use Langsmith to keep things in order. It's like there's a suite of tools around the core functionality that really need to be developed. And especially when you're going from prompt to product, you got to get serious. Security is important, and that the accuracy and the confidence in the actual product becomes much more important, right? You can proof of concept and prototype over here, but if you're putting an application out in the wild, you got to do that a little bit more work, and that's where it takes some more, obviously, technical expertise, and there's a lot more to it, right? There's a lot more to bringing this, like taking something from a few prompts to a full user experience and an actual product you're charging people for, and with the expectations that come along with it.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect moment to remind our listeners that this podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, the AI development team for startups. So we're here to help people find solutions. So whether you want to build it all yourself and follow Imtiaz's classes, or if you think that you reached your technical limit and you have maybe a full-time job or you want to hand this project off to someone else, 3Advance can help you take it from there. So coming back to our conversation, I have to ask this follow-up question. When you are in the OpenAI assistant and you're learning about APIs, what do you think should be the best companion for someone to use when reading about that? Because it can be a little overwhelming. I've been there and it's got a lot of documentation to read through. Do you have videos or things to complement that?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of resources. I'm going to provide a more comprehensive course that takes users from 0 to 100, especially using the assistance framework. And I know there's not much content out there. I personally just learned through my use cases and by building stuff. And then I made a lot of videos here and there, and people are finding it also practical in their use case. But what I want to eventually do is just put this all together in one course where people can just go in and just start from scratch, because it's fairly new. And OpenAI just coming up with new technologies every week. And fortunately for me, I've been on the I've been working with it from day one. As soon as they released the custom GPTs, I saw what they were doing and then built on top of it. So definitely, I'm going to put all that resources together. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, definitely recommend you do that, and you'll get notified when I drop any new content of OpenAI systems.
And Imtiaz, can we get into your GPT? I want to hear the story of like how did you create VacayGPT? Like, where did it start? I presume it started as a custom GPT, but can you tell me the story and then get into that whole, you've gone from prompt to product. Tell me about the product. Tell me about the business. So start at the beginning. How did this happen? What's the inspiration? Where did you begin? And then where did it go?
Well, honestly, I love traveling. I love exploring places, and I'm thinking from the idea of a traveler. What would be ideal solution for me if I were to book, vacation rental in any place that I went to? That's just one of my passions. And fortunately enough, I have been working with a friend of mine who is also in this space, vacation rentals, and he's also fascinated with AI and the possibilities of AI in the realm of customer service and helping people book seamless experiences and create their travel itineraries, etc. So that's where the idea came about. And I said, well, this is the perfect time because OpenAI just released the OpenAI Assistant API. We can definitely work on this together to build a virtual concierge for your vacation rental service. And we started prototyping with the custom GPTs, and then we started doing more integrations. We realized there's more API integrations that happen behind the hood because vacation rental properties are connected to different service providers that host the property information, etc. So we have to make those integrations. That was the most challenging part. But once we got that out of the way, now the virtual concierge has even more capabilities. It's not just the customer service, but it can provide recommendations. It can give you availabilities. It can perhaps create travel itineraries for you. It can personalize the experience for you. So there's a lot more. It adds a lot more functionalities because you have the custom tooling available now. So I went through the whole process of creating it from scratch and deploying it. And it's currently in my client's website. If I can share my screen. Let's see.
Yeah, definitely give it a whirl. So it's funny, you moved more to a unique custom experience. Was it was the technical limitations, or it was monetization business needs, or was it both?
Well, it's a mix of both. I wanted to see the potential of the technology, and then eventually, as I started building it, I wanted to see if I could also monetize this product.
Yeah.
So basically, it seems like you go to a website and rather than clicking through and making a lot of decisions, you just interact with a chatbot on the right side of the screen, and you tell it the basics like check-in, check-out time, and it starts crafting like an itinerary and potential destinations for you. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, that removes a lot of stress from the vacation interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have the connection on the back end with the properties. So the virtual concierge can quickly go and find the available properties, and based on the customer's, preference, they can recommend properties for them as well. So this gives a more personalized touch to that experience.
Yeah.
And another cool thing is it also looks at the services that are available for that vacation rental, whether it's airport transfers or maybe any kind of additional upsells, and it will also try to upsell. So it also acts like a sales agent in some shape or form. So you're not only getting customer to book a property, but also add additional amenities on top of it.
And is it possible to actually book it through the chat window?
What do you mean?
Can you actually book it through the chat, or does this happen? Do you have to actually go away?
Yeah, it depends on the client. If some clients want the users to actually go to the specific page, we have the feature to do that.
Yeah.
They could also, we could also have the users just book in through the chat interface as well, because it just requires one more additional step in the integration. But it just depends on the client's preference. In this case, the client wanted more the user to go into the actual page and then look at all the initial details.
I know there was in the news a few months ago about the car dealership that sold a car for like $1 or something. Is there fears or worries around, how much could be done through the chat interface, and do you put guardrails around that to make sure that something crazy doesn't happen?
So we do that through the prompt, and we always check it every once in a while to make sure that it's responding accurately. The great thing is the GPT models are getting better and better. So we also double check that we are using the best model out there and also optimizing on cost. A lot of things can be avoided with just solid prompt engineering, and we go back, refine the prompt whenever we see the AI steering off course or it's not providing the response as it should. So just constantly checking with the AI, because as you know, there still needs to be some human involvement. But the more iterations we make, the more we can trust the AI to do the job by its own. So I think that's where I personally like to go, is like always make sure we refine the prompt with each new feedback.
And Imtiaz, how do you feel about things like audio and voice? Do you feel like this is ultimately leading to being able to do the same kind of things with like a telephone call or even online where you're speaking to maybe a video assistant? It feels like, for me, the chatbots is just the beginning. How do you feel about where we're going and where your GPT might go?
That's the direction where everything is going, right? Because you see the GPT 4.0 that was recently released, and it's multimodal. So what that means, it can process image, video, audio, text, and it also shows signs of human intelligence. And I saw videos where it can sing, it can do all kinds of other stuff. But I think where things are going is creating a more human-like AI, that has capacities to have reasoning, that has reasoning capabilities, as well as seeing the world like we humans do. Except it has a prompt, and it has some programming on the back end, right? So we still need humans to be involved to direct it. But it's definitely it's becoming more capable, and I think it's going to enhance the customer experience when they're working with businesses. And I think every business will have an ideal avatar for their business that talks to them as a person, and it can scale exponentially.
Yeah, that speaks a little bit to like the brand voice, like how a brand wants to be perceived, the personality, the professionalism, the knowledge base. Yeah, it's even things I think about at 3Advance. It's like even getting everyone in the team on the same page in terms of like what we believe as a company and what we want our clients to understand and feel. And that's happening more and more. Obviously, like the large brands are very well aware of that, and that speaks to where AI goes and how that might be even it's maybe possibly a lot easier to train an AI model to speak more like how you want to be heard, rather than trying to train individual humans that have their own biases and preconceptions and everything else as well.
Yeah, and also I think where the public consensus about AI is always shifting. I think there's obviously people on different sides of the spectrum. There's people who are really fearful of their jobs getting replaced. There's people who haven't played around with AI as much and do not know the capabilities. So I acknowledge what I advocate through my community as well as YouTube is to have a balanced middle ground, is to see the areas where you're good at, to see the domain experience that you can bring to the table, and then augment the AI to do those tasks. And it frees up bandwidth for you to now start doing more higher strategic level tasks. And you can outsource a lot of customer service, copywriting, etc. to the AI. And in fact, I think it would be a great addition to supplement what you're already doing. So there's definitely no need to be scared. I think more importantly, it's education that's really missing. There's a big skill gap in AI. There's a big AI skill gap, and I think people, the more they understand its capabilities, the more they learn how AI works, I think the more they can really adapt to this changing paradigm shift.
All right. So as we're coming to the end of the podcast, I have 3 last questions. The first one is, as of May 20th, 2024, today, the recorded episode, to my understanding, the GPTs cannot get the latest up-to-date internet information. They're backdated. Is that correct?
That's right.
So you don't have to share the secret sauce, but if you want to share like a couple insights for our listeners, how was your solution, the one that you just showed us now, the GPT, able to look through the web and get us the latest information when it comes to booking?
Yeah, there is obviously different applications. As you know, with the GPT, the custom GPTs, you can search the internet within that interface. But when you take it out of the GPT interface, when you actually work with OpenAI Assistant APIs, you now have to build your own search capabilities on top of it. I think that's another key. I think that's a con, but then it also gives you leverage because you can choose any search provider. There is a SERP API, there's Perplexity API, so you can connect with these APIs to provide more up-to-date information, whether it's the weather, whether it's events going on in the area, etc. So these are going to be, and it's pretty commonly known for the search aspect. And the great thing with agents, when you add these additional capabilities, the tools, the agent becomes much more adept because it's up to date and it can provide you more specific information. It saves you a Google search, but saves you a lot of time. That's the more important thing.
So to me, it sounds like all the GPT creators listen to this. It would be a good idea to go to the OpenAI assistant, dabble with that, and then try to see if you can work with the API that helps you browse the web. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, those are good action items for listeners there.
Well, I've got one more question before wrapping it up, is just to flip the tables a little bit. Is there anything you'd like to ask us, pick our brains about? We've been building products from the other side, coming then towards AI. Anything we can help you with?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the best way? So what does that journey look like when customers come to you now versus before? I believe now they come with a lot more information with the custom GPTs. They're building products and they're like, okay, how do I build a product now? But before there's they don't, I think before they came with an idea and you had then a step for them like, hey, test this. So how did it change from then to now?
Yeah, great question. And there has been a huge shift, a huge change. I think the big thing is similarly to how you and Raf got into this in the first place, and got into GPTs. People are playing around with OpenAI and they are realizing that they can apply some of the LLM tech to real world problems. And suddenly they light up. These are, like you mentioned before, everybody is an entrepreneur. Everybody's got an idea, but suddenly there's an opportunity usually starting with ChatGPT, to actually create something and to prove a concept or to test something. So we have folks that'll use OpenAI website, just ChatGPT, try something out, have a little bit of success, and then they're asking us, can we turn it into a product? And that's where we come in. So what we started doing is run these, like we break all our work into sprints, and our sprints are monthly, they're month-long cycles. And so we're offering this ability that we'll create a prototype, a functional prototype based on what you've done in ChatGPT. So creating an interface around it or integrating more services, like you say, live services or custom APIs or third-party APIs to create an actual working version of it. So then we're doing these AI prototyping sprints so that within 1 month, we'll take your GPT concept that you'd be playing around with and actually create a functional working interface or experience for it. And then based on what's learned from that and based on the success and proving that out, proving there's actually a market for it, then we'll create an entire product, be it an app, be it a website, SaaS platform, whatever it might be. But absolutely, like you've sensed this. It's starting with someone playing with ChatGPT, that coming to us to build a prototype that's a little bit more user-friendly, that they can actually put it in front of real people, and then from that, jump into an actual full product development. Now, around the surface of that is many other things like marketing, like business plan, monetization, pitch decks, projections, all of these things that go into actually making a business. We have a term over here, that it's not just business. Like, it doesn't matter how good an idea you have, it has to be monetized in some way. There has to be a goal of actually, making money or growing enough user base that you can, either monetize it through direct subscriptions or purchases or advertising. So business matters. And so we're a development company at heart, but we bring people not through just the development process, but help them to get focused on what else they need to do in order to actually create a business, which is super important. That's the kind of thing it's the kind of thing that there's so much knowledge out there, there's so much experience, there's tried and tested techniques, but there's also some grit that's needed. And if we have entrepreneurs that are, proving they got a little bit of grit, we can help guide them in a little bit of the right direction and kind of double down on and increase the likelihood of success.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
It's fun. It's a fun time, as you both know. It's a fun time to be in the business.
All right. Well, if you enjoy this podcast episode, please give it a thumbs up. We really appreciate when you rate the podcast in your favorite platform. There's a lot of work involved behind the podcast. Finding quality guests like Imtiaz today. We have to browse these different communities, creating the thumbnails, editing the videos, creating the reels. There's so much work that happens behind the scenes. So the ultimate way to thank us is by giving us a rating and sharing with a friend. If you are a GPT creator that you want to be featured as a guest, there's a link in the show notes that you can apply and we'll read your submission. And for our value guest, Imtiaz, all his links to his social media, his Skool community, his YouTube channel, and some of his courses, the links below. Your host, Rafael Testai, co-host Paul Murphy, CEO of 3 Events, and our precious guest, Imtiaz.
Thank you so much, guys.